In the last stream, we were working on setting up the terrestrial agglomeration plate from Britannia, as well as the Alpine portal from Britannia, to allow us to both make Terrasteel and to also make some of the higher end Britannia resources like the Dragonstone required to make the Philosopher's Stone. And that is kind of our main goal for today's episode. We are hopefully going to work towards getting this Philosopher's Stone. Most of the recipe here really isn't that difficult. We need Appetite Dust, we need low, medium, and high covalence dust. The low and medium dust, fairly straightforward. We need one Conjuration Catalyst and one Alchemy Catalyst, both of which we actually already have underneath both of these mana pools, and then it's really just the high covalence dust here that requires the Terra Catalyst that is going to be the tricky part and is going to take us basically the entirety of the episode because of the fact that it requires a Gaia spirit. It does also require 3 Terrasteel. That is nowhere near as bad because we do of course already have the terrestrial agglomeration plate, and we also have a way of duplicating our mana basically infinitely using the hop graphite dust right here. As we've done many times before, we can turn these into blacker lotuses and of course use that to get even more mana in our mana pool, and therefore making the 3 Terrasteel really isn't going to be too difficult. The hardest part about making the 3 Terrasteel is going to be getting the 3 mana diamonds, because of course for the mana diamonds we need regular diamonds, which currently we are making using our pressure chamber, so we would need 24 blocks of coal for that. Again though, thankfully we have got quite a bit of coal, almost 2,000 in the system. And speaking of which, in the last episode we did set up this system to allow us to begin automatically processing things like copper, nickel, uranium, zinc, etc. All of the things that we weren't processing previously with our ore washing setup. As you can see, we have run into a little bit of a snag between episodes, and that snag is that our dank is now full. The reason for that is that we've kind of started to back up a lot on things like redstone, flint, and bone meal. Those are the 3 things that we get the most of, and you'll see that taking up more than 1 slot in the dank each. In fact, the redstone even bled over and started taking up a 3rd slot, and so I have temporarily made a new storage drawer here to hold all of that excess redstone, basically so that we have a little bit more space in the dank. And what that has resulted in is kind of just these sieves backing up. You'll see over here at the top, this is full of sand. It's also full of redstone, which means it's actually not making anything right now. It's not sifting that sand because the output buffer is full. And you'll see that our nickel here doesn't have anywhere to go inside of the dank because there's no free slots. Right now, I don't think this is a problem, because hopefully once we get the Philosopher's Stone here, we're going to be able to very quickly craft things like emeralds using diamonds, and we're going to be able to craft things like diamonds using gold. If we look up the recipe for emeralds here, you can craft 1 emerald with 2 diamonds, and you can craft 1 diamond with 4 gold, and you can even craft 1 gold with 8 iron. And we've got a bunch of iron and gold, and we can make even more iron and gold very quickly with this setup. And so I'm hopeful that once we have the Philosopher's Stone, we should be able to fairly easily upgrade our dank here to the higher tier, which is not only going to give us more slots than we currently have, it's going to give us an extra row along the bottom, but it's also going to quadruple the amount of items that we can store in any one slot from 4,096 to 16,384. And of course, once we've got the tier 4 dank that requires emeralds, it's actually cheaper for us to then upgrade to the tier 5 because it just requires diamonds, which in this pack are cheaper than emeralds. And then we can again get another layer and once again quadruple the storage up to 65,000 items per slot, which will take care of all of these problems for us. And so if we kind of ignore this for now, leave it backed up, and instead focus on getting the Philosopher's Stone, I think that we can kind of solve that problem in the not so distant future. So to do this, we need to fight the Gaia. To fight the Gaia is going to be a little tricky. Not only because the Gaia is a hard fight, but because you also have to set up a ritual to actually summon the Gaia. Now, currently, we do not have the Lexica Britannia, which is the guidebook from Britannia. Thankfully, it's not too difficult to make, however, it does require a book, and this is one of those situations where it's actually quite useful that up until now I have been using all of the fake leather instead of real leather wherever it's required, because the book recipe, unfortunately, doesn't work with the fake leather. You have to use real leather when making the book. And so real quick, if we have 1 spare sugarcane, which we do, we can do this, we can do this, and we can do this. Now, I believe by default, this actually won't tell me about the Gaia. However, if I were to go ahead and throw this Lexica Botania here through the portal, we get this improved Lexica Botania. And from here, if we go to entry index and we type in Gaia, we have the ritual of the Gaia chapter. And this right here is the ritual that we need to set up. So we need 8 blocks of iron. That's easy enough. We need 4 Gaia pylons. These are also easy enough. They're an upgraded version of the mana pylon in a similar way that these Natura pylons are also an upgraded version of the mana pylon. For these, they're also fairly straightforward. We need more pixie dust, which is a little tedious. We're going to have to make a few more alchemy catalysts, pulverize them, and then throw them through the portal to get the pixie dust. Elementium, much easier, just mana steel through the portal. And so the Gaia pylons, not going to be too bad. We do need 4 of those to get this going. However, the tricky bit here is, of course, that beacon in the middle. In order to get a beacon, we need to get a nether star. And in order to get that nether star, we are, of course, going to have to fight the Wither, which means we need to get ourselves some Wither skeleton skulls, and we need to get ourselves some soul sand. The soul sand, I think, is fairly straightforward. In fact, we might already have some. We do indeed. We got this by bulk haunting the regular sand using our encased fan. That is easy enough. The Wither skeleton skulls, though, become a little trickier. Thankfully, there is a recipe here that allows us to turn regular skeleton skulls into Wither skeleton skulls using the mana pool with a blaze mesh underneath. Again, I do believe we have that over here. I think it might be this mana pool that has a blaze mesh underneath it. We can use that to make the Wither skeleton skulls if we have the regular skeleton skulls, and the regular skeleton skulls we can make using bones. However, that is where we hit our first hurdle, because right now we don't have any bones, and we also don't have any way to make bones. There's no recipe for bones in the pack, and so I think the very first thing that we're actually going to want to do in today's stream is set up a mob farm to allow us to actually start to get things like bones. That's also going to give us the side benefit of allowing us to get more leather as well, because as we've seen previously, leather can be made, real leather can be made using rotten flesh in the alchemy catalyst, and of course any mob farm that spawns skeletons is also going to spawn zombies. And so between streams, I've gone ahead and done a little bit of base work, and I essentially put down a bucket of water underneath the center of our platform and then built a pillar that went all the way down to this platform right here. This platform is going to be for the Gaia fight, because the Gaia fight requires a very large area to function. You need a lot of space for the Gaia fight. I'm hopeful that this platform should be big enough. There is a small chance that it's actually not big enough for the fight, but I'm going to remove this pillar in the center and we're going to fight the Gaia here. I've then gone ahead and built another platform below this, and this platform here is where our mob farm is going to be. The reason I've built the platform lower is because mobs do spawn more frequently at lower Y levels in Minecraft, and so the lower you go, the more mobs you can spawn. Now, there is something to bear in mind here. In newer versions of Minecraft, you can go all the way down to Y level -64. You'll see right here that we are at Y level -55. The thing that you need to bear in mind is that if your mob farm is more than 128 blocks away from you, the mobs will just not spawn. Mobs need to be within 128 blocks of the player, and so especially in these new versions of Minecraft where you can go down to -64, what that means is if you build your platform right at the bottom of the world, and then your regular base up here is above Y level 64, for example, ours is at 64 right here, but if we go up here, we're now at 68, it basically means that as soon as you're up here, the mob farm will stop working. And so to prevent that from happening, I have built my mob farm very, very low down, but I've only put it at -55 to make sure that wherever I am in the base, the mobs will still spawn and the farm will still work. So in order to do the farm here, that's where things get a little tricky, because we actually don't have any kind of mob farming mod in the pack. We don't have something like mob grinding utilities. We don't have any cursed earth. We don't have any vector plates or anything like that. And so it's going to be a little trickier to actually get a mob farm going. However, I do believe that, as with a lot of things in this pack, Create is going to help us out quite a bit, because I believe what we should be able to do here is use encased fens to push whatever mobs spawn inside of our box towards a mechanical saw, this guy right here. And any mob that walks into the mechanical saw will be killed, and then much like we're doing with our sifting setup over here, we can then use another basic item collector to collect any items that are dropped by the mobs that are killed, and of course send those into either another dank or into some kind of chest. And so I think what we're going to do here, I'm going to build a fairly large mob farm down on the bottom level, I think I might build a 7x7 internal mob farm. For that, I am going to need some more stone. We do have stone smelting up over here. This is, of course, what I was using between streams to get all the stone for the lower platforms, hence why there's not a full stack in each of those furnaces. Thankfully, we can go ahead and do something like this to get more stone cooking, and we do, of course, have many, many hours in our temporal pouch, over 8 hours now in there, so if we need to speed that up, we definitely can, and if I do a quick one of these, we should then be able to start building this. So I am thinking that we're going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put this like right here and 1, 2, 3. That's going to create a 7x7 internal. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 like this and 1, 2, 3 like this. That's built intentionally so it doesn't cover up the elevator and gives us space to go around the outside. I'm going to have to move a few of these torches. That is completely fine. But essentially, we're going to build a box, a dark box on the bottom level of the platform here. We don't have any kind of dark glass mod. Again, like some mods do add glass that allows you to see in, but doesn't allow light through. Thankfully, Minecraft does now have tinted glass in by default, this stuff right here, which has the same effect. You can see through it, but light doesn't pass through it, which allows you to spawn mobs. And thankfully, to make this, we just need 4 amethyst shards and 1 regular glass per 2 tinted glass. And as of last episode, we're actually getting amethyst shards from our sifting setup. So we should be able to make quite a lot of this. I think what I'll do, just to save on the amount of glass and amethyst that we have to use, is I think I'm just going to make the front out of dark glass, and I'll probably make the other sides kind of entirely out of these smooth stone tiles. I am also going to only make this 2 tall. So we're only going to make it tall enough to spawn creepers, spiders, skeletons, and zombies. We could make it 3 tall to allow it to spawn endermen, but for the time being, that's actually not what we want. We really only want skeletons and zombies in here because we really want to focus on getting those bones, because we need to get 24 bones, I think, in total in order to make all 3 wither skeleton skulls, which, given that this is not any kind of accelerated mob farm, it's only going to run at whatever vanilla speed the mobs spawn at. It's not going to be particularly quick already, so we really want to maximize the amount of mob spawning that is the kind of mob that we want, right? We don't want to spawn endermen for the time being. And so I'm going to fill this in, and then I'm going to go ahead and make 8 encased fans. So we're going to have 7 along the back. They're all going to push the mobs forward, and then we're going to have 1 on the side that's going to push the mob over to the side this way, and then we'll probably put our mechanical saw right about here, so the mobs are kind of pushed into it and then killed. All right, so we've made 8 encased fans, 7 along the back and 1 at the front here. And in order to make the mechanical saw, it is just 1 andesite casing, 3 iron plates, and 1 iron ingot. Super easy stuff. So we'll take that and we're going to put that down right about here, like this. Now, there are things to bear in mind here. The first thing to bear in mind is that the mobs actually don't touch this if the glass is here like this. So we do have to get rid of this piece of glass in order for the mobs to be able to walk and be pushed into the mechanical saw. If you leave a block there, it won't work. One thing we can do, even though it's going to look much worse, is we can put wall down there. If we do something like this, that's going to prevent mobs from getting out the top, things like baby zombies and baby skeletons and even bats. It's going to prevent them from getting up and out of that hole, but it's going to allow them to get hit there. A second thing that you can also do, and that's probably going to be sensible, is putting another piece of wall right about here. Again, it's a little awkward looking. It doesn't look good at all, but that allows spiders to get pushed in because spiders are more than 1 block wide, and so if you just have the 1 block gap like this, they won't be able to get pushed in, but with the cobblestone wall there, they will. Of course, you do still need to then darken the area, so you do need to kind of cover this up with either a block or some dark glass to make that happen, but for the most part, that now should be fine. And of course, we'll fill in the rest of the walls here once we're ready to go. I don't want to start spawning mobs until everything is ready. So the big problem that we now run into is that we need to get rotational energy down here to allow all of this to run simultaneously. And especially if we want it to run somewhat quickly, we are going to need a decent amount of stress. So there are a few options that we have here. Option 1 is that we could run a shaft from the top of our base all the way down. And I'm kind of leaning towards that option. It's like 128 blocks, which is a lot of shaft, but it shouldn't be too difficult to just run a long shaft all the way down here and get all these online. The two other options that we have are that we could reset up the water wheels down here and use those to power the encased fan. I guess along the same line, you could also set up another boiler down here and use that as well. Alternatively, you could use the electric motor and the alternator. We've already got the alternator. The idea here, of course, is that we can use the alternator up where our current create system is to turn our create energy into power, and then the electric motor does the same thing in reverse. It turns electrical power into rotational energy. And so we could make one of each, and then down here at the lower level, we could just use the LV wires to run the power down and then convert it back on this other side. However, I think that is inefficient. I do believe you lose energy doing that on kind of both sides. And I really don't think it's going to be that difficult for us to make and run a 128 shaft from where we currently have rotational energy down to here. And that's also going to give us the maximum amount of stress units to work with, which I think is going to be sensible. Just like we've done previously, I'm going to use the encased chain drive to rotate all of these simultaneously. For that, I do need more iron nuggets. Iron nuggets, thankfully, one of the easier resources to get. We need 7 of these, I believe, like this, and we're just going to have these run on the back like so. And basically what that's going to allow us to do is take one regular vertical gearbox. We're going to put that on the back here, and then we're going to feed power into that from the top, and that's going to spin all of these in the same direction, which of course we want to blow this way. And then from there, we can just have that gearbox kind of feed around to the side, have another gearbox here on the corner, and then feed that along and over into here. Chat is right, that is going to interfere with our Gaia platform. However, I do think that temporarily, whilst we fight the Gaia, we can then temporarily remove the little bit of shaft that gets in the way and then reset it back up, because we are, I think, only going to have to fight the Gaia once in order to get the Gaia spirit required to make the Philosopher's Stone. And so we can hopefully get the mob farm online, use it to get the bones required for the Wither skeleton skulls, fight the Gaia, turn the mob farm off temporarily while we fight the Gaia, and then re-enable it afterwards if we want more mob drops. But real quick, I'm going to go ahead and run a lot of shaft down to get hopefully all of this online. So I did not know this, but it looks like, you see the little arrow there in the center of the screen, you can actually build upwards without nerd pulling up. I was nerd pulling up, like jumping on top of the block and placing another one, but it looks like if you just look up and hold down right click, it might just place the blocks. Now, I don't know how far you can do that, because it looks like there is some kind of length limit. So you might not be able to do it from down here all 128 blocks up, but it does look like you can kind of hold this, and you'll see that it is going up to a certain point. That might make things just a little bit easier. And of course, using our extendo grip here does allow us to do it even further than we would normally be able to do it. So right here, if I do this, it does go up even further than it did a second ago when I didn't have the extendo grip. Okay, so not too long later, and we, I think, are pretty much good to go here. If I throw down one more shaft right about there, that should bring our mechanical saw online. It is indeed online. Perfect. So we have a shaft that runs all the way from the top. Essentially what I did is I put another shaft in the belt here, and then put 2 gearboxes down right here. Those then connect up all the way up here. If I zoom in, you can see that right there, it's kind of hard to see, I guess, but right there is where that gearbox is. It then runs across to a gearbox in the center, and then that runs all the way down to here, through the floor, and to this area here. And then we've got, of course, a gearbox that splits that across down here to the chain drives for the encased fans along the back, and then over here we've got a few more of the gearboxes to run that across over to this fan, and of course across over to this gearbox. And so I think now that this is pretty much good to go. All of the fans are blowing in the right direction. So at the back, the fans are blowing forward, and here this fan, of course, as you can see, is blowing me off the side here. So now, if we go ahead and fill in all of the walls here, we should be able to make this little area of the base dark enough to start to get mobs to spawn. If you press F7 on your keyboard, you will see the little lines there on the floor. So yellow is not what we want. We want these to be red. If we can get these to be red, that means that mobs will actively spawn there because it is dark enough for them to spawn. And so real quick, I'm going to grab all of the stone that we began smelting earlier, And of course, we're going to chisel all of that into the correct stone. One thing people have been telling me to do is if you put the stone in, click what you want, click connect to textures, you can then click this button that chisels all, and it will turn all of the stone in your inventory to the same pattern, as opposed to doing every single stack individually. And of course, now we can go ahead and fill in all of these gaps. And then from the front, we should start to see some of those turning red, some of those yellow X's, that is, turning red just as soon as we fill in every single block here. So now you'll see at the back there that we are getting some red. The reason we're not getting full red coverage is because right here, the wall is letting light through. So this is where things get a little dicey though, because of the fact that we've got this shaft here. So I think we can make this work. I think it's just going to look a little bit awkward is the truth of it. Because I don't know if the gearbox lets light through either. You'll see as I put down more blocks around here, it does begin to darken it up just a little bit. It's still not fully dark though. Let me do something like this. How does that look? It's still getting there. I don't know. I don't think this is doing anything, these here and here, but I do think this, yeah, that is letting light through. That's fine. This isn't too bad. It's not great. It doesn't mean mobs won't spawn round the corner there, but this does mostly work. People are saying try andesite casing. That might work actually. If I try right-clicking andesite casing on here, it doesn't seem to have the same effect, unfortunately. It seems like this does let light through. The same is kind of true for the gearbox as well. In my testing, a lot of the create blocks, including the chain drive and stuff, do let light through, despite the fact that they look like solid blocks, because even the saw there, I think, also lets light through, which is unfortunate. But if we do that, that does cover most of it, and I think now that should kind of just work. So up at the top, if we go and get an item collector here, just like we did in the last episode, of course, for that, we should just be able to get an iron nugget and then quickly do one of these. That's not the right mana pool, Isaac. You have to do it over here, and of course over here, after we drop in a few more of our blacker lotuses. I'll take both of those. And boom, fantastic. That should be everything for the item collector. For now, we'll put a chest down, although I might upgrade that to a dank in the not-so-distant future. And if we were to go ahead and place that down, I should probably put a ladder here as well, but you can see already, there's a mob. So if we, actually, let's put that down right about here. We'll do this, and we'll do this. Perfect. So let's go pick up some other stuff that we kind of haphazardly threw down, but we should now start to spawn mobs. Those mobs should be killed by the saw, and then hopefully, if the range on this is big enough, we can set it to be quite large. Those mob drops should end up in this chest if they get dropped. Of course, you do have to be far enough away for the mobs to start spawning, and so if we're just there babysitting it, it will not spawn any mobs. We do need to be up at least, I think, 24 blocks away. I think it's similar to the passive mob farm that we tried to set up previously, in that you need to be at least 24 blocks away for the mobs to spawn, but then if you are more than 128 blocks away, the mobs will stop spawning. And so hopefully we should maybe start to see mobs spawning inside of that mob spawner sometime soon. Alright, so a little bit of time later, and it turns out that the initial area that we built the mob farm in did not work, and the reason for that is that this is a deep, dark biome, which is mostly just bad luck on my part, but what that means is that no mobs spawned here apart from the basals from thermal expansion, and they didn't even have any mob drops. For some reason, the basals powder has been disabled in this pack, and so we essentially had a mob farm that produced no mobs and therefore no mob drops. Thankfully, all we had to do to rectify that was just move our mob farm a little bit higher up. And so instead of having it below the Gaia platform, I've now just moved it up above the Gaia platform, because up here, as you can see now on the left, we're in a meadows biome, and this is working. So I've made a few small tweaks. The first tweak is that we've moved the fans down to the bottom level of the farm, because quite a lot of baby creepers, baby skeletons, baby zombies were spawning, and they weren't getting pushed with the fans on the top half. The downside to having the fans on the bottom half and not the top half is we do get these bats spawning occasionally, and they kind of do fill up the farm a little bit. However, the farm is working. You'll see we are getting mob drops here, and people in the Twitch chat did point out that if you just jump off the edge, the bats will despawn, because as soon as you get teleported back to the top of the world, so as soon as we end up back up here, we're now far enough away to where the bats will just despawn, and so now if we go back down, there should be no bats in the cave, or at least not as many bats, because the ones that were there initially were despawned. And so every so often, if we come down here and there are too many bats and not enough mobs spawning, we can just jump off the edge and that will kind of flush out the mob farm and reset it, which is good. And so we do only need 24 bones to get this Gaia fight up and running, so we're very close on the bone front there, which is fantastic. We are, apparently by the looks of it, out of food here because we are not being fed by our auto-feeding backpack. Thankfully, that is a very quick fix. If we go ahead and cook some potatoes, we can throw those in, and our backpack will immediately shove those potatoes into our face, feeding us and regenerating our saturation. And so now, while we wait for that last bone to come in, really all we need to do, before we actually fight the Wither, of course, is just get the Gaia pylons and the blocks of iron. Of course, the blocks of iron are going to be fairly straightforward. We need 8 of these, although I usually find it easier just to get 9 of them because you have to put the Gaia pylon on something as well. And so down here, right in the center, I'm going to build just a 3x3 of iron like this. And also, again, using the Lexica Botania here, we can visualize where these Gaia pylons have to go. If we click on this little I button here, we can then go ahead and right-click this in the world. Specifically, I think I kind of want to right-click this where this center block of iron is. So if I get rid of that and I right-click here, it's going to go ahead and show me the visualization of what this should look like. And as we build it up, it's going to go ahead and fill in that bar at the top. And when it's done, we should be able to spawn the Gaia. So in order to get these 4 Gaia pylons, as we saw previously, we do need some more mana pylons, which means we do need to get some more diamonds. Right now, we do not have any diamonds. That is fine. We do have quite a lot of coal, though. And so, just like we did last time, I'm going to get quite a bit of coal here. In fact, I'm going to get a full stack of coal blocks and just throw all of those into our pressure chamber to get us 8 diamonds. That's going to be more than enough to make the 4 mana pylons. We, of course, are going to need more mana steel for that as well. That, of course, is not a problem. We can get a lot of mana steel very quickly, especially with all the Blanca Lotuses that we have, and we can even do that in here as well. Fantastic. I do think that I'm going to fight the Gaia using Elementium armor and an Elementium sword as well. This one right here. And so if we're going to do that, we need quite a bit of Elementium, and the Elementium is just made with mana steel. It's 24 Elementium to make a full set of Elementium armor, which means we would need 48 mana steel to make a full set of armor as well. And so let's go ahead and get just a ton of mana steel here and throw 48 of it through the Alpine portal. The terrestrial armor is better, but it is much more expensive and it's going to take us way longer to make, and I don't really think it's going to be necessary. I think the Elementium armor should be good enough for us to fight the Gaia. There is all 24, and so if we do something like this, we can get a chest plate, we can get the leggings, we can get a helmet, and of course we can get the boots. Nice, and it looks pretty cool as well. So, I don't know. Can we put the goggles on there? We totally can. That's fantastic. And then the tank is the only bit that's tricky, but to be fair, we can put the tank away for now. We can also put the extendo grip away for now, and we can get those back out as and when we need them. We don't need to have it on us all the time. Back to those Gaia pylons, though. We do need a bit of Elementium for that, so I guess I might as well throw all of this through here. And by all of it, I mean some of it. I guess, actually, no, yeah, let's throw it all through. That's enough to get us all 4 of the Gaia pylons. And then in order to get the pixie dust, as we saw earlier, we are going to have to make, I guess, 8 more alchemy catalysts to get 4 more. No, we need to throw 16 alchemy catalysts. Is that right? We need 4 of these pylons. Each one requires 2. So we need 8 more alchemy catalysts to make 8 more low covalence dust to make 8 pixie dust to make 4 Gaia pylons. To be fair though, that should be fine. We've done this before and the recipe isn't too bad. And 8 more alchemy catalysts later, we can throw those, of course, into the pulverizer, and that's going to get us all of the low covalence dust for the Gaia pylons. Whilst we wait for that, let's go check on our diamonds over here. These should be done. They're not done, though, and I think that's just a pressure problem, as per usual. That's fine. We can take some coal, throw that in, and then very carefully apply a little bit of upward pressure using our temporal pouch. As soon as we get up here, I'll probably take the fuel out because with it being accelerated to 8x speed, I think it is primed to explode there, which is not going to be ideal. But once we have the diamonds there, we should be basically good to go on making the Gaia pylons. And I believe in the time it's taken us to do this, we are also basically good to go down on the mob front as well. I think we have enough bones to get the skulls that we're going to need. This looks good. The pouch is worn off there, so that is fine. And over here, those diamonds are going to start to come in. Fantastic. Let me go and check. Do we have 24 burns? We do. We got 51 burns. Fantastic. So up here, if we do something like this, we can get at least 3 skeleton skulls. Ideally, we might get more in the future, depending on how many we have to fight. But for now, we can go 1, 2, 3, and we can get 3 wither skeleton skulls. And so now we do, in fact, have everything that we need in order to fight the wither, to get the nether star for the beacon, to then fight the Gaia. Over here, we have our diamonds. Fantastic. We need 4 mana diamonds, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, so that we can make 4 of these beacons, these mana pylons, that is. Let me go 1, and then we're all out. Of course we are. That's fine. Let me get some more iron ingots. Let's do a quick one of these. Fantastic. Let's try that one more time. Can I get 4 of these mana pylons? 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. And then all we need to do then is grab our low covalence dust out of here. Thankfully, you do get some of that living rock back, which is quite nice. And if we throw all of that low covalence dust through the portal over here, that should get us all of the pixie dust that we're going to need to make 4 of these. Assuming that you have enough elementium, which apparently we do not have. That, again, though, is fine. You do want to make sure you throw an even number through here. If you throw an odd number through, it will not work. And then from there, we can do this, and we can do this. Nice. Okay, once we got 4 Gaia pylons, it's just a case of throwing those Gaia pylons down in the correct location, down by the iron here. So you just want to go 2 up off the ground. You don't have to do the visualization, of course. If you know where these go, you can just place them down manually, and that will still work. The visualization just makes it that little bit easier to know where to put all of the stuff. And so now this is almost good to go. Of course, the last thing that we are missing to make this work is that singular beacon in the middle. And of course, for that, we have to fight the wither. So we could just spawn the wither here in the world. However, the wither has a tendency in a skyblock world like this to just fly up and up and up and up and up. And it's very hard to get to, especially when you don't have creative flight. And so I think what we'll do instead is something that's definitely going to be a little bit trickier, but I think is going to be also a little bit easier at the same time. And that is, we're going to make a compact machine here that is then going to be used to fight the wither. Specifically, I think I might go for a 5x5 compact machine. For this, we do need more cobbled deep slate, which, as we saw before, we can get from endstone. However, we're going to learn from our past mistakes, because last time we didn't use the sandstone. We just went straight for the endstone using the barrel. However, the sandstone is definitely going to be way easier, especially if you put it down in the right spot, and especially if you use the temporal pouch to make this a fair bit faster. It's going to go to endstone, and that endstone should go directly into the deep slate. And then once we have the deep slate, we can of course take that, craft it, and that should be everything for our large compact machine. Just as soon as we craft the walls and an iron block. Nice. So in order to actually use this compact machine, which for now I'll put down, let's say right about here, we do need to get a personal shrinking device. Not to be confused with the one from the shrink mod. There is a quest for this one, and this one does look interesting. This one is nifty in that it allows you to change the size of yourself. The way it works here, and I'll show it off just because it's a quest, but if we get another ender pearl using our ghast here, we can make the personal shrinking device. This one does require power. Annoyingly, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think we can charge it using this HV accumulator, which is unfortunate because it means like right now, I don't think we really have a way of charging this, but you can go ahead and change the size of yourself using this if you have enough power. We'll put that aside for now until we have enough power to use it, but thankfully, you don't need any power to get into the compact machine. For that, you just need a personal shrinking device, and in order to make that personal shrinking device, we just need 2 more Eyes of Ender. So let's quickly do 2 ghast tears into 2 ender pearls. We of course already have the blaze powder to make that happen, 1 and 2. We do need another book here. Thankfully, we do still have some sugarcane that we can shift to hopefully grow somewhat quickly. Fantastic. And once we have the paper, we also do now, thankfully, have rotten flesh coming in from our farm downstairs. It looks like we are going to need some more glass as well because we need to make some glass pans. That is fine. Let's do 1 of those. Whilst we wait for that, let's go grab some rotten flesh from down here. We got 30. Fantastic. And now back up here, we should be able to use 1 of our catalysts, the alchemy catalyst, to turn that rotten flesh into leather. Nice. And using that leather, we can now go ahead and make really as many books as we like. And from there, we can make the personal shrinking device just as soon as we have enough glass to make the glass pans, which we do. Nice. And so with this, you can right click to get into your compact machine. And this is essentially a small pocket dimension of the size specified. So you can build these from as small as 3x3 all the way up to as big as 13x13. The bigger you go, the more space you have in here, but that also means the more space the Wither has to get away from you as well. So you want to make sure that it's somewhat small. I think this little small 5x5 here is going to be perfect. One thing we can do here, if we click the FTB chunks and we go to claimed chunks, we can claim the chunk by left clicking, and then we can shift left click to chunk load the chunk. My thought process in chunk loading the chunk is that we're going to come in here, we're going to build the Wither, we're then going to leave the chunk whilst the Wither explodes, because if the Wither explodes whilst we're in there, we're just going to die straight away when the Wither explodes. However, if we leave, we can then let the Wither explode, we can then go back in and fight the Wither. We also, thankfully, have the option of cheesing it a little bit by leaving the compact machine whenever things get dicey. If we get a little low on HP, we can just dip and then go back in once we are healed, which is going to be quite useful. Now, in order for us to actually get the Elementium sword to fight this guy, we do have to get a Dreamwood twig. The Dreamwood twig requires 2 Dreamwood logs, and to get 2 Dreamwood logs, I believe all we have to do is drop some living rock or living wood through the portal. We do. Nice. Once we have that, we can get a Dreamwood twig, and we can use that Dreamwood twig to make our Elementium sword, which is like this. Nice. And so, in general, that's really all we need, I think. And we have the soul sand, of course, to make this happen. We could, if we wanted to, look at getting enchantments on our armor and on our sword. That would be a possibility that would make it a little more likely that we don't die to the Wither. But for the most part, I think we should be fine here. One thing I think I will do real quick is a little bit of oak tree growing to get some apples. The apples we can then craft into golden apples very easily. And I think, especially for the Gaia, but also a little bit for the Wither, having these golden apples in our bank pack instead of baked potatoes, I think is going to be incredibly useful, because whenever we take damage, we're then going to lose hunger. And as soon as we lose hunger, our bank pack is going to auto feed us a golden apple, which is not only going to restore our hunger, it's also then going to give us the added benefit of regeneration, which of course is then going to restore our health, which is going to be invaluable in a fight against the Wither. And so real quick, I'm going to get a few more apples here, craft those into golden apples, and then we'll see about fighting the Wither over in that compact machine. All right, so not too long later, we now have 12 golden apples. I am going to eat the baked potatoes first. I don't think we need to go into the fight with regeneration, but I do want to have regeneration capabilities for when we start to take damage. So let's go ahead. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put all my stuff in a chest just to make life a little easier, because if we die, there will be a gravestone, but getting that gravestone back with the Wither in there is going to be tricky, so we really just need to take this with us. I'm going to take my personal shrinking device, of course, but I think this is fine. We've got our armor, we've got our backpack that's going to feed us, that's perfect. We just need to go in, and of course, we need to bear in mind that whenever we need to, we can just leave using the personal shrinking device. So, let's do this. Of course, I'm a fool. I did not have the correct amount of soul sand. That is my bad. Let me grab one more out of the system. Perfect. Let's place that down right about here. And then we'll do 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to wait here until the Wither is almost ready to explode. And then as soon as that Wither is close to exploding, I'm going to leave so that we don't take any damage. And then we're going to go back in now, because he should have exploded. And then you will take a bit of damage right away, which is of course not ideal. And then I think the trick here is probably to just keep moving. Make sure that you're not in the line of attack of the Wither. The regeneration effect is hitting, which is good. The fact that we've got the Wither effect is not ideal. Just keep moving. Never stop moving. If things get a little dicey, we just dip. We dip. And then we let our regeneration effect heal us up a little bit. We can maybe let that Wither effect wear off. The Wither is not going to regenerate while we're not there, which is good. And then we do want to make sure that we're kind of somewhat fully healed. And then we can go back in. The unfortunate thing is, like, the Wither gets the upper hand whenever we leave and come back because of the fact that the Wither kind of sees us inside of the compact machine before we see it. If you can avoid getting hit with the Wither effect, that makes it so much easier. Things get dicey, we just dip. I think we're doing okay. Let's not die. Let's not die. We still do have golden apples. There we go. Okay, good, good, good. This is fine. Let's get back in. Never stop moving. Don't get greedy. Don't get greedy. We got greedy. No, we're fine. We're fine. We're fine. The regeneration really helps in this scenario. It also helps to keep moving, because if you keep moving, then you get hungry faster. And getting hungry faster does help. We're pretty close here, though. We're pretty close. I just need a little bit more health. A little bit more health. If we run a bit more, we should eat another golden apple. There we go. How many we got left? We got 4 left. That is fine. And again... Don't get greedy. Oh, we got a little greedy. I didn't think we were going to die, but the good news is we died on the outside of the compact machine, which actually makes life a whole heck of a lot easier because we can just re-get all of our stuff like this, and then I believe we can just shift right click. Oh, I thought you could shift right click the backpack on. I guess you can't. That's fine. We can go ahead and put it into our little bauble spot like that. We got 11 wither roses, I guess. Oofed. That one is less good because now, now we got to go inside and get our stuff back before we die. And of course, to get our stuff back, we actually also have to get another personal shrinking device, which makes this a little trickier. All right, so I've made another personal shrinking device, and I've temporarily made some chainmail armor. The reason I made chainmail armor is that in this pack, you have to make the chainmail armor first, then make iron armor. I just need something that hopefully we don't die immediately when we get put in here. I need to get this stuff, and I need to get out. Once I've got my stuff, if we die out here, that's less bad, but I need to get my backpack back on. I also ideally want my goggles back on, I guess. We don't need both of these. I don't need this either. I do want to keep my elementium armor. How many golden apples do we have? We've got 3 left. Okay, that should be fine. I've got down to 2 now. Let's go fight some more. We just need to make sure that he's regenerated so much health in the time that we were gone. We just need to make sure we leave when things get bad. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to get more golden apples because he's regenerated so much. I think I need to do that again. All right, so I've got more golden apples. However, before we fight for the second time here, what I am gonna do is see about getting a potion of strength, as suggested by the Twitch chat here. To do that, we do of course need to get an awkward potion, which requires some nether wart. We also need to make a brewing stand, but the brewing stand is easy enough to make. It does require blaze rods, which we can make, thankfully, using our metal press. That's good. So this is going to get a soul sand. The soul sand is useful because we can then sift the soul sand using our sifting setup downstairs to get nether wart. And then we can use that nether wart to make an awkward potion. We can use that awkward potion to make a potion of strength. And that potion of strength is hopefully going to mean that we just don't have to hit the wither quite as many times to kill it. The Twitch chat is correct here in that we can use the mixer down here with the blaze burner to make potions. So this does have some water in it. I'm just going to go ahead and break it and replace it because I think we want a full bucket in there. If we were to go ahead and feed this guy some fuel, we could then drop the nether wart in, and that's going to turn our water into awkward potion. Then if we want to get strength 2, we first of course have to make strength 1. And to get strength 1, we just need to put a blaze powder into the awkward potion. And then it looks like we just put a glowstone into the strength 1 potion to get strength 2. I believe. And then I think from there, if we get some glass bottles, we should just be able to right click those out of here. I think we can also bucket it out potentially. Never mind, that's not possible. But if we get some glass, I do believe that we can do something like this, and I think we're going to get 4 potions from this. I think we can do 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gets us 4 strength 2 potions, which I think is going to be good for us to have. We'll drink one of those before we go in, and then we can also drink more of those whenever we leave, of course, as well, and, you know, recuperate. We can come back out, drink another potion, heal up a bit, and continue. So let's get rid of you. Let's put you back in there. Let's make sure we've got our sword. Let's make sure that we've got our personal shrinking device, and let's make sure that everything else is put away. And I think that with that, we are about ready to go again. Let's give this a try. I'm going to drink the potion, and we're going to go back in. Again, this time is not ideal for us. The fact that we lose a little bit of health right away. But I believe. And there we go. It's just that easy. We only needed 1 potion of strength. That did not take very long at all. And now we have the Nether Star. And we should be able to make the beacon. We can. And we should be able to place that beacon down onto our lower platform right here, like that. And with that, we are now basically ready. I say basically ready because if we want to actually be ready, we do need 1 more Terra Steel, and then you just shift right click the Terra Steel onto the beacon, and that will begin the Gaia summoning fight. But unfortunately, we are out of time. And so next time we'll come back, we will get the Terra Steel. That's not going to take long at all. How are we doing in here? Look at this. Fantastic. You love to see it. That's a ton of rotten flesh. I think what we'll do next time, we'll come back, we will make the Terra Steel. We will get ready to fight the Gaia. I think the Gaia is a little trickier than the Wither, and so what we'll probably also do is use a lot of that rotten flesh that we've got to make some more books and potentially do some enchanting to enchant the Elementium armor and the Elementium sword that we have, so that it'll hopefully make the Gaia fight just that little bit easier. We only have to fight the Gaia once. Once we have fought the Gaia once, we'll get at least, I believe, 4 Gaia spirits for killing the Gaia. We can then use one of those to make our Philosopher's Stone through the Terra Catalyst. In fact, I think we need 2 Terra Catalysts to get 2 high covalence dust to make the 1 Philosopher's Stone. And then from there, the Gaia Spirits do have an EMC value, so we should be able to duplicate the ones that we have left over to get more of them in the future if we need them. So again, hopefully just the 1 Gaia fight required, but that of course is a problem for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Sky Revolutions there.